This is an introduction to Adobe Dreamweaver. I'm going to be using CS6, although I don't think anything that I'm going to go over in this session is really going to be different from the previous versions or probably the Creative Cloud version that's out now. If there are, I'll try to make a note of that as we go. When you first open Dreamweaver, which is a part of the Creative Suite, generally it will come up with this welcome screen. It's a good place to start. If it doesn't, it's okay. We can go to File, New, and get to a screen that's similar to this. I'll show you that also. But generally speaking, we're just going to start right here with Create New HTML. You see there's many file types that are built in to Dreamweaver that we can create, but HTML is primarily the one we'll deal with. CSS is also there, but we generally don't start with Create New CSS. We'll just do HTML. Now, by definition, Dreamweaver is just a program that helps us write HTML code. If you have mastered HTML code, there is not a lot that Dreamweaver does for you that you can't do with just knowing code alone. So it's really just a code writer. One of the important things about having some training in Dreamweaver is that it's kind of like Photoshop, where there's like a million different options, a million ways to do one simple process. So it's really important just to know where the options are that you really are going to need on a day-to-day basis. I'll start by going to Create New HTML, which opens up a blank document like this. If for some reason that welcome screen wasn't there, you can also go up to File, New, and it should already be by default on Blank Page, HTML, and None. Otherwise, all the other things on this are either different file types or they're sort of predetermined canned layouts that you can bring in, which sounds really nice, but in all honesty, they're not really that usable. So, I mean, you can use them for certain things, but if you're just wanting to do a custom website and not really start with someone else's layout, then this is good for you. So I'm just going to start with None. The only thing I'll point out here on this screen that wasn't on the welcome screen is the doc type. I've taught you guys thus far to just do the HTML5 doc type, but it'll be nice to see. So we're going to go ahead and just leave it. Whatever it already is, doesn't matter what it is, we're going to change it anyways. So let's hit Create. And it essentially takes us to the same place as if we just did File, New on that welcome screen. So two different ways to do the same process. Now I want to explain the interface first with Dreamweaver, just so you can have an idea of what's here. Although it's an Adobe program, there aren't really any layers. I don't see a layers panel. I don't see a color palette. It's very different looking than the other Adobe programs. This obviously is our work area. This is what our website looks like. I've got a blinking cursor up here, which tells me I can type. I can type whatever I want. Every time I hit enter, the enter key on the keyboard, it puts in a paragraph. If you want to put in a line break instead of a paragraph, you'll do Shift Enter on your keyboard. Shift Enter. And remember, in code, the difference is a line break is simply goes down one line instead of two, and a line break only has one tag, no opening and closing tag, and you really can't do any sort of formatting or anything like that to a line break. A paragraph, however, gives you two lines, and it's really used for bodies of text, like real paragraphs. It has an opening and closing tag that goes around your text, and a paragraph tag also can have CSS formatted with it, so that gives you differences in fonts or sizes or backgrounds or whatever. So I can type just a few things in here. Enter is a paragraph, Shift Enter is a line break, and that's enough to get us started. Now the first part of the interface I want to show you is right up here at the top left of the screen. Well, first of all, here is our tab. You can have many tabs open. These will be each one of your HTML files. Now when we look right under that, I see three buttons. I see Code, Split, and Design. Code, Split, and Design. Right now we're on the Design view. If we try Code, it shows us the HTML code it's written thus far, and this should look very, very familiar to you. For the most part, this is a basic HTML skeleton. If we try the split mode, it shows you half code and half design view, and you can kind of see as I highlight one side, it highlights the other automatically. So that's kind of a nice feature. It's a good way to learn code. If you've never dealt with code before, then playing in split view is kind of nice. But generally, I'm in one or the other. I'm in design or code. This makes me a little claustrophobic, but it's not a bad thing. If we go to code view real quick, first of all, if you need to increase the font size, you can do so under. It'll be under Preferences. If you're on a PC, it'll be under Edit Preferences. If you're on a Mac, it'll be under Dreamweaver in Preferences. Once your Preferences is up, you can go down to Fonts, and then you can change the font size for your code view. Right now it's on 9, which is small for anybody. I'll blow mine up just a little bit, up to about 14 or so, and hit OK. So you probably can't see this on the video real well, but it's okay. We're not going to be writing in code anyways. Notice, first of all, line number 1, the doc type is massive. It's very long. It goes doc type HTML, public, and you've got this address. This is an HTML4 version of a doc type. With HTML5, we pretty much take all of that out and just have doc type HTML. So I'm going to delete all of that except for the closing bracket, and that's about what we're used to seeing. We also see inside the opening HTML tag, there is sort of this definition of what version of XML we're going to be using. There's also on line 4 a meta tag that explains what content type we're using, which is text HTML. These are not bad lines of code. Dreamweaver is all about writing code that's going to work on Mac and PC and Internet Explorer and Chrome and Firefox and all of the above. It tries to really cover the bases between new and old and different technologies. So some of these lines of code in here are they completely necessary? No, but they don't really hurt anything. It's just to kind of help out some of your older browsers, which you can kind of see on the XMLNS. You know, 1999 seems kind of archaic in the web world right now. So, but in any case, it's there. Everything else should look about the same. I see my body tag, I've got paragraph tags, I've got a line break where I inserted a line break. It's got a little slash at the end, which is fine. So I'm going to go back to design view and just kind of look around at some of the basic options here. If we're going across the top, you've got code split and design. I'm going to skip over here to the one where it looks like a planet, looks like a little earth. This is a preview in browser button. And this is going to be something that it might be over a little bit on previous versions of Dreamweaver. But when you click on that little planet icon, it'll say preview and it'll have a list of what browsers it recognizes. If you've installed browsers recently, you might have to go to Edit Browser List and point that to it. Obviously, I'm on a Mac, so there is no Internet Explorer on a Mac. All I see are Safari, Firefox, and Google Chrome. So it'll really vary depending on your computer. But anytime you want to see your work in a real browser, you can come up here to Preview and choose a real browser. There's also a Live button that will attempt to show you what it will look like in a real browser. The Live button is different in older versions also. There's a Live Code and then a Live View button. Don't touch the Live Code button. That's nothing you're going to need for basic Dreamweaver. Live View is the equivalent of the Live button here in CS6. And it's a nice button to have because it's sort of a way you can see what it's going to look like without having to actually look at it in a real browser. But at the same time, which browser is it showing? You know, if every browser is different, which one is this going with? So it's nice to have, but it's not perfect. So there is no substitution for looking at it in a real browser. One other note about this, it's sort of a toggle button. You can turn it on and off. So if it's on, if it's darkened, you're not going to be able to really make any changes. You can't delete stuff. You can't change it. That's a common mistake I see where you'll have that Live button on and you're like, well, I want to do anything. What's going on? Just make sure it's turned off before you're ready to start going back. Moving across the top here, none of these other things are extremely important except for title. This up here is where you will change the content of your title tag. And I hate the fact that it puts untitled document in here. To me, it would be better to just leave it blank, but it puts untitled document. And used to, you could go to Google and do a Google search for, in quotes, untitled document, just like it's written here. And you would see millions of web pages that didn't change their title from untitled document. Now Google filters that out, and they actually look at some of the content and things. But you know, if you leave it out, then it actually gives your page a title of untitled. So it's kind of goofy. Very, very important, obviously, that we do that. If I go to code view, it's right there. You can change it in either place. If you change it in one, it changes it in the other. So I'm going to say Dreamweaver intro. Go back to code view just for kicks. Takes it a second to update, but there it is. Now before, let's go back to this preview in browser. Before you can actually preview it in a browser, it will prompt you to save. So if I try it right now, it'll come up and say, you need to save it first before you can look at it in a browser. So obviously that's something we would have to do. But that's generally something we would do towards the beginning anyways. So let's actually backtrack just a little bit. You know, now that we kind of see a little bit of the interface, you don't really need anything over here just yet. The properties down here at the bottom, that's something that it's handy, but you won't use it an incredible amount of time. If you've got a question, this is a good place to look, because this part of the screen changes down here at the bottom on the properties bar. It changes according to what you've got highlighted. So when you highlight text, it shows text properties. If you highlight an image, if you've got an image on here, it'll show image properties. So it's a nice place to look if you've got questions, but generally speaking, I'm not going to come down here and start playing with a bunch of font things, because I want to do that in my CSS a little bit later. Now, even though we've done this much here in Dreamweaver, this typically isn't where we would absolutely start. The very first thing you should do in Dreamweaver, the very first thing, is to establish a root folder. Now, one thing that Dreamweaver does to help us out is it maintains a root folder for us, but as much as it tries to help us, it can also hurt us. Okay, it thinks it knows what we're trying to do when we're deleting files or renaming files or moving files around. So it will actually rewrite some of our code based on what it thinks our links are supposed to be. And that's a problem. You know, if you're really into HTML and you know what you're doing, you don't really want Dreamweaver to do a lot of helping for you. So the rule of thumb with all of web design is to always make a root folder first. Even with code, besides Dreamweaver, always make your root folder first and save to that appropriately. Now in Dreamweaver, it's even a bigger necessity because it's built in down here to the Files panel. If you go down to your Files panel to pull that up, you'll normally, it probably won't say anything here, or maybe it'll show your desktop. I'll just put mine on main HD for now, but yours probably says desktop by default. We always want to look for managed sites. Managed sites. It's in blue, and it's right over here to the right. If you don't see it there, then pull this menu down, and it'll always be at the bottom. After you've clicked managed sites the first time, this will disappear, and it'll just be down here on this drop-down menu. So go to manage sites. We're going to go to new site. And it gives us this dialog box here where there are two blanks. And there's categories over here that we can change, but you won't need any of these. Just the first one for right now. And we're looking at two things. We've got site name, which is essentially a nickname you're going to give your site in Dreamweaver. If I want to say Dreamweaver demo, that's fine. This isn't going to be in your code. This isn't going to be in your title tag. It's not going to show up anywhere in your design. This is just a name you're going to give it in Dreamweaver. Ultimately, on this Files panel, you're going to have a list of all of your projects. If you've got 12 clients that you're making websites for, this is going to be your client name. If you want to make one that says, you know, final project or grunge site or whatever you're doing, that's fine. This is the name of your project. Doesn't have to always be the same as your root folder name, but it should be pretty close. No one's going to see this but you and whoever uses Dreamweaver on your computer. So if you want to put something like, the client that I don't like, it's fine. No one's going to see it but you and anybody that sits at your computer. So I'm just going to simply type Dreamweaver demo. The second box here, this is the more important one. This is pointing to our root folder. So if you've got a root folder, you hit this folder icon and point it to that folder. If you don't, and at this stage I don't, I'm going to hit that folder icon and make one. So I'm going to make one right on my desktop. I'll go down to new folder, and again I'm on a Mac, so new folder is here on a Mac but not on a PC. It's I think up in this area on a PC. I'm going to put my folder name here, and generally all lowercase, no spaces helps. I'm just going to put Dreamweaver demo. So there's my folder. It's on my desktop now. All I have to do is hit choose, and then I can hit save and done. And we've established the root folder. You'll have to do that process every time you set up a new project. If you're going on to a college campus where you're sitting on a different computer every week, you'll have to do it every week, every time you sit down for a session. Now, there's one other thing I'll show you here. I don't think you'll need it right here at the beginning, but it's at least worth throwing out there. If you click on servers, this is where you can establish all your FTP stuff. Dreamweaver has an FTP editor built in. So if you're not into using FileZilla or some other FTP editor, you can do it right here in Dreamweaver. I don't know that it's better or worse. It's just different. It's just it's built into Dreamweaver. Maybe it's more convenient because it's built in here. We'll look at that in a later session. There are some key differences between that and FileZilla, but I just want to let you know for now, you can go to servers, hit the plus symbol, and type in all your server information. Okay, so if you want to try that out, you can go for it now, but I'm gonna bypass it for the moment. So again, you go to Manage Sites, New Site. We're going to type in a name, hit the folder icon to point it to our root folder, and hit Save and Done. Now the Files panel knows where our root folder is at, and that's going to be its default area that it will look to for links and it will save to, which is a good thing. This does help us out and stays organized. But I cannot stress how important and vital this is to doing this at the very beginning of your Dreamweaver before you ever save anything. Notice I've done some work, but I haven't saved anything. So very, very, very important. I'm going to go ahead and save as at this point, and it automatically looks in that new root folder, and I'm going to simply label this index. So the other basics here, if we're looking around at the panels, the CSS styles panel will be important here soon. Insert is a nice panel. That's where we can come in and insert things like images and div tags. If you'd like to insert an image, the first step to that is obviously having it as having it in your root folder. So if you'd like to insert an image, you simply hit Insert Image. And I don't have any images in my root folder. So if I tried to link to an image it's not, should give me a warning message that says, hey, you don't have this file in your folder. Would you like to copy it there? But generally speaking, if I do this and I don't see an image in my root folder, I would cancel it. Go make sure it does get to my root folder first and try this again. Last thing I want to look at for this session is to look at how to create links, web links. It's pretty easy. It's very easy here in Dreamweaver. Let's say that I want to link to the Indiana Pacers. I like the Indiana Pacers. I want the term Indiana Pacers to be a link to their website. To do that, you're going to come down here to the you're going to highlight it first. Sorry, highlight it first. Come down to the properties bar at the bottom of the screen, and there's a link box. It says link right there. You're going to click inside of there, and you're going to type in the full web address of where you'd like it to go to. If it is not one of your pages, if it's an external link, it must start with the http:// http://pacers.com. If you leave off the http:// there in the link box, it's not going to work. Okay, it just flat out won't work. So, got to have that there. You can also come over here to Target, if you pull up the target, it's got a little drop-down menu there that lets you choose things like _blank, which you might remember from code is when you can make it open it up in another browser window or another browser tab. So I can choose _blank there for this. If you were just going to make a link to one of your pages, so here's a link to my contact page, you could just highlight the word contact, and if it's a page that's in your root folder or going to be in your root folder, all you type is that file name. So in my case, I'm typing contact.html. I haven't made that page yet, but I will. So I can go ahead and link to that now if I want to. I don't want to change the target on an internal link. If it's a link that's in my site, in my root folder, you'll leave the target alone. Don't put anything. When I click off of this, you'll see that my text has changed. It's now blue and underlined, just like a link should be. While I'm in Dreamweaver, they're not active. You can just click on it so you can retype or highlight or whatever. But I will go ahead and save this. And I can preview this in a real browser. So I'll preview it in Safari. And there it is. It opens up my browser window. I see the Indiana Pacers. I can click on that. It opened up a brand new tab for me altogether. And it's slowly but surely getting to the Pacers.com. So that worked. If I go back to my my contact button, it's going to break because I don't have a contact page yet. But if I were to go ahead and click this now, it would take me to a broken page. It says contact.html up here, but I haven't made it yet. So technically it's working. I haven't made that page yet. So everything's okay. So Dreamweaver Basics, it's just about learning how to get around in the program. You know, the files panel really is the most important part of anything I've gone over. So you have to establish the root folder first. If you do try to save anything or link to anything before you do the root folder, you're asking for trouble. Dreamweaver is not going to handle it well, and unfortunately, Dreamweaver probably won't give you a lot of error messages about it. It's just going to try to fix it for you, and it might end up doing more damage in the process. So just remember to establish your root folder first. Just about every time you open Dreamweaver, you might have to do that, but just remember to do that first, and everything will fall into place from there. So that's it for this session. Next time around, we'll look at doing some other stuff like bringing in CSS. So hope you enjoyed it.